Number one in the NFC up for grabs. Can the Minnesota Vikings down their longtime rival, the Green Bay Packers, to keep pace with another rival, the Detroit Lions?
Philadelphia and Dallas. Saquon's chasing history. Philly's chasing the 2 seed. No one knows what Dallas is chasing.
Speaking of that 2 seed, all the Buffalo Bills have to do is take care of business against the lowly New York Jets to lock up second fiddle to the Chiefs. Can they do it? And can Josh Allen give his mates a week off before the postseason?
In Atlanta and Washington. Washington's looking to secure a playoff spot tonight. Atlanta's chasing the Tampa Bay Bucks, trying to get in.
All that, there were a lot of blowouts in Week 17, but there's a lot of pieces falling into place for the postseason. We'll try to sort through the mess on Sunday Scaries with Bucks McGee.
Week 17, man. It's just a lot of emotions all over the place, a lot of do or die scenarios, teams trying to get in, teams trying to secure playoff spots, and unfortunately, some teams were shown the door. Nutmeg, how you doing today, sir?
Not good, Bucks McGee. Not very good. I'll give you some emotion. I'll tell you about a team that was shown the door because my Colts, this is abysmal. This Giants team with nothing, zero to play for, zero. All they have to do is lay down. They lock up the number one pick. But for some reason, we got to give up not one, not two, not three, but 4 touchdowns to, let's pay him respect to our jokes throughout the season, Drew Legend. 4 touchdowns to Drew Legend and the New York Football Giants. And what an embarrassing way, absolutely disgraceful way to bow out of the 2024-2025 playoff chase by my Indianapolis Colts than to lose to this bum, scrub Giants team with nothing to play for. I want to burn. I am this close. I won't say yes. I won't say yet. If they were to somehow find a way to lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 18, I am ready to burn every single piece of Colts memorabilia I have in my possession.
Wow.
Just light it all ablaze for this absolute disgrace of a season.
So you're telling me Mac Jones holds the fate of your fandom in his hands?
I won't totally let them go because it's been a lot of years. It's been a lot of years committed to this franchise.
Believe me, I understand.
But should they lose to the Jaguars next week and lock up 10 losses on this season, on this miserable, decrepit season, I will take a year off from being an Indianapolis Colts fan, root for the Carolina Panthers, and make the Colts earn my fandom back for another year.
You a glutton for punishment, sir. You're a glutton for punishment. The Panthers, man, just freaking bandwagon or something, just so you can feel good for a year.
Well, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to jump on the Bills bandwagon or the Lions bandwagon or even the Vikings bandwagon, pending how this postseason pans out. I don't want to be that guy.
Well, sometimes you need a cleanse, and sometimes you got to be that guy. Yeah, that game was.
No, I need a cleanse. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I'm watching that game in between my own issues, and I don't know, man. It was just it's like the Giants woke up and decided to play for some pride. And now why? Because now you've lost the number one pick. And now
Why is
the New England Patriots are now the number one pick. The Gerard Mayo Patriots now have the number one pick, and they can wheel and deal right now if it ended today.
you would then? That's how ironic is that the Giants live in Patriots lore for taking 2 Super Bowls away from them, including an undefeated season, and here they are gift wrapping the number one draft pick back to the Patriots. The Patriots, mind you, who don't need a quarterback because Drake May has looked quite good this season. They
Mm-hmm.
can pick whatever they want, offensive line, wide receiver, whatever they need to help Drake May. They can take whatever they want. And then Giants, who don't have a quarterback, who cut their quarterback, say, here, just take the number one pick. We don't want it.
Yeah, the Patriots could flip that pick for 2 or 3 other picks, and next thing you know, they're back to relevancy because that's all it takes.
Yeah. I
Wow.
I just this is just I can't necessarily say I've hit my limit, but I am within the 99.9% percentile of hitting my limit with the Indianapolis Colts after this one. Like these Giants had nothing less than 0 to play for.
I just don't know. It was like they were just a step behind each other. There was the one pass that Flacco was trying to throw to Taylor in the flat, and Taylor didn't even turn around, hit him in the shoulder pad. It was like they had these pockets of they just couldn't figure it out. But then they'd storm back, and Flacco throws beautiful passes to Pittman and everybody else. So you're thinking, all right, they finally figured it out. They're going to somehow beat the Giants, pull it out in the end, and it didn't happen. Just didn't happen.
And if I didn't need more salt rubbed in the wound, so you've got the crack box and you signed up for Sunday ticket towards the end of the season. I did not, so I was stuck with Dallas and the Carolina game, which we'll get into more in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I was stuck with that. So when Philly Dallas ended, they kicked me over to the end of the Colts Giants game. It was in the commercial break for the 2-minute warning. And what was the first play? The first play after they came out of the 2-minute warning. But Joe Flacco, who I have been very hard on because he has absolutely nothing left in his arm. I think I have more in my arm than Joe Flacco right now. Nothing left. And what does he do on the first snap of the 2-minute warning but fumble at the line of scrimmage and give the ball back to the Giants? So, now mind you, 12 points with 2 minutes. It's not looking that great anyway. But just like whatever shred of semblance was left at an opportunity to take a victory was just gone in one play. They couldn't even give me 30 seconds of hope. They couldn't even give me 30 seconds of hope.
I don't know what this team does going forward. Now you've got AR. You really got to impress upon him that he's got to be the guy. You've really got to build the offense around him and his skill set, whatever it's going to be. Like there's talent on the team. It's not like they're devoid of talent and can't play. I just don't know how they just didn't come to play today. I don't know what it was. There's really nothing to say. Like literally, you should have beat the Giants soundly, and the Giants played for pride. You got to give them credit. They figured it out, and at least for one week this year, the Giants played well, and unfortunately, I guess wanted to end somebody's season, and that's all I got, man. It was rough.
I can't even press upon making something work with AR because at this point I'm whatever. We've gone over my opinions on AR. It's I don't even want to talk about it at this point.
So basically, just you got to focus on next week and just hope Mac Jones isn't the guy who sends you to Carolina, because Mac Jones looked okay today. So I'll be honest. Mac Jones looked all right, so he could be the guy who sends you to the Panthers.
He did, and he was playing against the Titans, which isn't exactly a good presentation of that, but at the same time, you're right. He did look good.
Oh man.
All right. Speaking of wild card teams that actually performed when the odds were stacked against them, the Miami Dolphins. Now, this is a team in the Cleveland Browns that actually knows when to lay down and give up and go for a draft pick because the Dolphins had no Tua, no Waddle. The Browns could pretty much just load up against Achan. Tyreek, I can't imagine what Tyreek could have done without a respectable quarterback in the lineup. But somehow the Miami Dolphins still figured out how to get this done. And they are still in the wild card hunt.
Well, let's be honest. Look who was at quarterback for Cleveland. Like, let's be honest. It is what it is. You don't have Chubb. Ford is decent, but that they weren't going to throw the ball all over the place. Like, let's be real. So they loaded the box and just played good, solid defense. Miami wasn't a bad defensive team. They're not, an elite defense, but they play well enough. And when they're playing against a subpar quarterback, they look better than they are. And got to give Huntley credit. He played within the framework of the offense for the most part and gutted out a win. That's all they were looking for. They weren't looking for style points, just enough to win. So they live another week.
It's a very ominous statement of a subpar quarterback after they whooped up on Brock Purdy and the Niners.
Sometimes you catch a good one at a bad time. It's hard to explain, honestly. At this point, Cleveland was an enigma. Defense is usually solid. The offense has been up and down. With once Watson went down and they went with Jameis. With Jameis, you either got a great game or you got a real bad game, and then they moved on. And this is what it is. I don't know, man. It was an ugly game. I couldn't watch it. I was flipping. I was like, good Lord, this is hideous.
Can you foresee any situation where they bring all these players that sat this week back for week 18 to have one more riled up, impassionate drive for the playoffs in the final week of the season to try and steal some thunder from Denver and Cincinnati?
If they're still in the playoffs mathematically come game time, they're playing. Like, that's what it is. Like, you're not gonna sit them if you still have a shot. Like, this whole 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon playoff situation is tough. So basically, you got the 3 teams, and now basically Denver controls their own destiny. What's funny with Denver is they're playing KC, but word is KC's going to bench a lot of starters. So
yeah,
you would think, yes, they should. You would think that they would be able to beat Kansas City. Now, does Carson Wentz come out and all of a sudden light them up for 320 and 3 touchdowns, and Denver doesn't know what happened to him? Could happen.
Well, yeah, that's the little theory in the back of our heads because Carson Wentz probably still thinks he's a reasonable starter in the league, and this could be his opportunity to prove to some forlorn team, the Jets, the Raiders, even the Giants, that I'm still worthy of a starting quarterback job in the NFL. So it's not even that hard to guarantee that the Chiefs will lose this game despite not playing anybody.
Yeah, but it's not like they're sitting their whole defense either. They're gonna sit some prime guys, and then they're gonna get other guys in there who can step in and play. So it's not a pushover game for Denver by any stretch of the imagination. So they've got to handle business. Now, if they don't handle business, Miami's got to do their thing. Now, if Miami just lays a goose egg, and for some reason Cincinnati which has the longest road, but if 2 out of the 3, if those 2 teams lose, all Cincinnati has to do is beat Pittsburgh. And if they do that, they got in through the back door of the club, and they're in the party. They're in the dance.
Backdoor, my favorite word when it comes to NFL playoff time. My favorite word.
Your conspiracy theories are alive and well. If it happens, man, at that point, well, you wear that tinfoil hat with pride because it's because I guess it's real.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Um. So let's talk about teams that actually had a reasonable chance in the playoffs. We'll stay in the AFC for now.
Mm-hmm.
The Buffalo Bills locked up the 2 seed. I didn't figure it would take much effort. They're playing the Jets. Aaron Rodgers at some point, I guess, was benched in this one through a couple picks, 40-8 or whatever the final was. It certainly wasn't very close. So, this to me? This feels like just what the Bills needed to do to put themselves in a position to feel secure between we're not falling further behind the Chiefs and we're going to stay with home field above everybody else.
Yeah, they did what they needed to do. Basically, you lock up the 2 seed. You get out of the game healthy, and now you start preparing for the playoffs. Probably won't play anybody next week. It'll probably, be a bunch of backups and such. Doesn't matter at this point. So that's good for them. Now it's it is what it is. They're the two. Now they've got to focus and the way that it's gonna end up being. Who knows if it's them and KC and Arrowhead, then they've got to tame the beast finally and get over the hump. It'll be interesting to see. Basically, this storyline is pretty much more for the Jets. Like everyone knows what Buffalo is going to do, whatever. Now it's what happens in the offseason with the Jets. Does Rodgers come back? What does this team become? Who's going to be the head coach? There's a lot more questions than answers. The Jets just look like a defeated team out there. Didn't look like they cared. If Aaron Rodgers comes back, they need to have a sit-down conversation with him and be like, "Hey, man, you're either all in or you're not. Like this is what we need. You got to bring in a young guy. You've got to think of your future. You can't not have you. You need to try to draft your replacement. That's what they need to do. They need to find the heir apparent to this two-year fiasco that's been Aaron Rodgers, 3-year, excuse me. That's going to be, and see what happens.
Yeah, we have to count that year that ended four plays in.
The best four plays in NFL history.
Yes.
You know, and that's what the Jets have to do. You got to figure out who your head coach is, who your GM is going to be, and you've got to create a brand new culture because you can tell that there's some guys on that sideline that like, I don't want to be here, I don't care. Just had a look of like, just get me out of here, end the season. So you've got to clean this all up.
Yeah, and I, the Jets would have the Dolphins next week, and that's an interesting matchup because the Dolphins, you would think like, why would they bench everyone this week, but bring everyone back against the Jets? Now maybe they don't need everyone active and healthy to beat the Jets, but the question remains: why would you bench everyone just to maybe bring everyone back if you have a chance to clinch a wild card?
Guys were probably nicked up and hurt, and maybe they felt they still had a shot. And especially with Tua, they're probably like, okay, let's sit them. I was surprised, but it worked. You got and give Miami credit; they're alive for another week, so I guess it worked. They'll have another week of rest, and who knows what this Jets team is going to do. It might be a situation where maybe Miami gets up ahead enough where Rodgers is sitting by halftime, and you're seeing a lot more younger players. Because let's be honest, I don't that Jets team I don't think plays for pride. I think those guys are sick of each other. I think there's going to be a lot of change. So
Yeah.
Miami's going to try to go in and do what they need to do because they have to win and hope for the best. That's all there is to it. They have to win. Now, no one knows right now what times, I think anybody's playing. I think it's still all kind of up in the air week 18 with a lot of stuff. So nobody knows who's going first, second, and third. So they're all sitting there hoping that they're the last one standing. Maybe, they're the third team to play and they can clinch, or at that point you find out you're already out and just start your vacation.
Yeah, and likewise for the Bills, um, this is a team that, okay, they took care of business against the Jets. They don't have anything to play for now. In week 18. Uh, but they're playing the Patriots. So are the Patriots now going to give the Giants a lesson in how to tank and secure the number one pick? Or are the Patriots or are the Patriots going to give the Giants a backdoor opportunity to take the number one pick back?
I don't know. I think it all depends because Drake May got nicked up last game, so they'll look to see what's going on. If they think it's better just to say, you know what, let's just end the season for you and get healthy, and then just Brissett starting. Who knows? I don't think they're just gonna fall over, but I think if it's a situation they're getting their doors blown off by halftime, then yeah, you'll see backups aplenty.
Yeah. And of course, there's always teams like the Titans and the Jaguars. Not so much the Raiders at that point because they decided to go on a 2-game winning streak to end the season here. At least a 2-game winning streak. I suppose the Chargers don't have anything to play for. For all we know, it could be a 3-game winning streak. But
Yeah.
hey, there's at least the two teams, the two bottom feeders in my division that could have a say in locking up the number one pick, and maybe the Patriots and the Giants don't have
Yeah.
anything to think about at all.
No, exactly. I think what you're going to see next week is teams that have already locked up a spot and know their seeding may play half or something like that, treat it almost like a preseason game, and then at that point bring in the backups and get ready for the playoffs. No, if you have absolutely nothing to play for, you're not going to risk your starters. It's just how it is.
Yeah. So we will move on to the Eagles now. I'm sure it didn't accomplish any less than a glisten in your eye to see the Cowboys embarrassed after they were eliminated last week and decided to play CD Lamb for no other reason than to ruin that. Well, not ruin, but make Tampa Bay's season that much more complicated. So I'm sure it did not. I'm sure it did not make one sweat off your brow to see Dallas embarrassed here.
No, I'm voting for Kenny Pickett for the Pro Bowl. Great job, Kenny Pickett, before he got hurt. Incredible. When the third string quarterback's dropping dimes and making you look bad, Dallas, you get what you deserve. Let's just be honest. No one gave Dallas a chance. Cooper Rush, you should have known it wasn't going to be a long day when he throws that pick six, and it just snowballed
Right off the bat.
Yeah, right off the bat. So it took a while for the Eagles to get going, but once they did, they played solid. Points came. Saquon, took a little bit of time to get going, but put up respectable numbers nonetheless. Now he's over 2,000 yards, and he looks to break the record against the Giants.
That's right.
So that's going to be
the script is intact.
There it is. Roger keeps it intact somehow. So Philly, the 2 seed, locked it up. You might see Saquon for a half. I don't know if they're going to play him the whole game. I don't think they're going to try desperately to get him the record. I'm sure Saquon's like, if you need me to play a half, that's fine, but I don't think I need to, we need to worry about anything. It might be, because at that point, people are just thinking it's just a dig at the Giants, and it just, deepens the rivalry and the hatred for each other. So we'll see what happens. As it is, who knows who's going to be the quarterback for Philly? So they've got to get people healed up. So it'd probably be really vanilla. Maybe Saquon busts a couple deep runs, gets the record in the first half, sits down, or even if he doesn't get it, sit him at half and get ready for the playoffs.
Well, the internet's already gone into high gear. The football purists will say, well, Eric Dickerson did it in 16 games.
Saquon Barkley didn't ask for 17 games. Not his fault. Like, let's be real. Like, that's not his fault. Like, I get it, but the purists have to understand the game evolves. Like, okay, fine, but it was a season, and he broke it. It is what it is.
Ginger Yeti, thanks for hopping on. Go Browns, very much a trolling comment of sorts.
Wow, man, wow. Next year's your year. Watson's back. Woo!
Yeah, Watson's back under much more amenable contract terms.
Much easier way to get rid of him. There you go.
Yes. So I will ask, as far as the Eagles are concerned, they did the
Mhm.
smart thing. They rested Jalen. They sat him. Uh, but yet there's still an issue with they they couldn't keep Kenny Pickett on the field. So the Eagles are yet again a team in quarterback disarray. You know, one gets hurt, they bring in the backup, then they can't keep the backup in the game.
It's going to be a situation where, like I said, Jalen's got some time before the playoffs start. Get healthy. They're going to have to figure it out. Now, if they go into the playoffs and things are at worst case scenario, you're going in with your number 3, then it's the Saquon Barkley show. You're going to see a ton of run, maybe a little play action. This kid looked decent. He looked all right. So I think depending who they play in the first round, they could get by, and survive. It's going to be interesting. Their defense is going to have to tighten up, but right now, we're looking way into the future. They'll just rest the guys and see what happens. And whatever cards you're dealt, it's the playoffs. You got to go in with it and hope. If you're going in with number 3, you hope number 3 knows enough of the playbook to get you through. You tell your defense, get ready because it's going to be on you guys.
So we'll stay in the NFC and speak of a matchup where the two opponents actually both had something to play for. Although you could argue the Packers didn't because they already had their playoff spot locked up. The Vikings have this NFC North locked away as it is. But the Vikings needed to keep pace because the Lions will play the Niners on Monday. And the Niners
Mm-hmm.
have been in dire straits of late, but they're still the Niners. They still have a ton of talent despite all the injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So this, to me, this was a show of Minnesota being able to prove that they can not be victim to the trap game.
Yeah, but I don't even think it's a trap game. Like both teams are good. But in
Yeah,
watching this game, you would have thought for like three quarters or so that Minnesota was definitely the more dominant team, the better team. For some reason, Love couldn't throw the ball for anything. I don't know if in stat wise, if I think he just broke 100 yards, maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but couldn't throw the ball. Minnesota's defense, which I thought was decent, played a hell of a game. I was impressed till the fourth quarter, where all of a sudden, Green Bay starts putting points on the board. But at the end of the day, people have got to realize that Minnesota is legitimate. Give them their props, their due. They can come out of the NFC. They really can. And basically, it's going to come down to Week 18, and whoever wins between Detroit and Minnesota is the one. It's going to be
yeah,
interesting to see.
and that could have just been a situation where the Vikings were. It could have been a prevent situation where they were just trading clock for yardage. Um, but I thought the same thing. I didn't think the Packers were very impressive, and not because they didn't come to play, but because Minnesota's defense was just that much better.
It really was. I was impressed. I didn't. I and I've watched some Minnesota games, and I was like, all right, their defense is solid. It's nothing spectacular, but they get stops. They're good. For like I said, three quarters they were good. Van Ginkel was good. Their corners were solid. Now I know Green Bay was missing Watson, but they still have enough game breakers on the wide receiver position.
Reed,
And
yeah,
exactly. And then you had Jacobs, who had the fumble at the beginning of the game, but
yeah,
still, is solid. So it was just weird. And like I said, Love didn't look good. Didn't look good at all.
yeah.
So
Hell of a start, but hell of a start for the Packers for their impervious running back, all pro running back, to fumble on the first drive.
yeah. So now at this point, Minnesota will Green Bay will just tighten things up, probably do the same thing, play for a half, put the backups in, call it a day, figure out what they're going to do for the playoffs. Minnesota, though, they want the 1 seed, and they've got a great chance to get it. Sam Darnold, man, is real. You got to give him credit. The talk is over of maybe shoulda, coulda, woulda, maybe he's going to fall apart. The man is having an unbelievable season. He will get paid by somebody, and he will be somebody's starter if it's not Minnesota's. But he is the real deal, and he's going to lead this team.
I guess I have to ask what's more attractive to the NFL consuming populace? Is it this battle for the number one seed with Detroit and the Vikings, or is it the win in year end do or die for the NFC West?
I'll be honest. I kind of veered to the Detroit Minnesota matchup
Oh,
because,
so you switched. You switched.
well, me personally, no, I want to see the win and you're in. Like I'm that. But if you're asking me, you're asking me the as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
not just I'm taking myself out as a whole because everybody fell in love with Detroit. Detroit,
Yes.
everyone felt good. Dan Campbell is a media darling. Oh, Sam Darnold, he's not good. He's not good. We'll wait for him to fall on his face. So
Mm-hmm.
at this point, people are going to think the winner of this game very well could be the NFC representative. Let's be
Yes.
realistic. Because right now, I think Minnesota by a chin hair is the second best in the NFC. I think they're better than Philly. I do think they're better than Philly. And now you have to say that because you don't know the quarterback situation in Philly. So now Philly's third. It's nothing you can really do. And Detroit, I'll give them the nod, but they're beat up and bruised too. So right now, Minnesota is in prime. I mean, yeah, Minnesota's in prime spot to come in and just take it all away from everybody. So I kind of want to see these two go at it and kind of say, okay, I'm the number one. It all goes through us, which I think is going to be interesting. The West, yeah, it's great, but it's kind of like, all right, it's like you're watching two kids, their arms tied behind their backs, trying to beat each other up, can't get nothing right, and will somehow figure it out. You don't know what Rams team you're going to get. Their offense is great, but last week it was putrid, or this week it was horrible. Like you barely put up points, but you won. Give you credit for that. And then Seattle is just a hot mess, like 6-3, 6-3.
Field goals in the rain. Field goals in the rain.
Yeah, like I don't know if America is scared to sit there because if America thinks that they're going to get some high-powered game, I don't know if you're going to get that. Don't think so. So it'll be interesting to see.
Break out the Sinatra. Field goals in the rain.
Yep, get ready. It might be a 10-6 fiesta or something like that. A 12-6 drubbing.
12-6. Oh gosh, that's a lovely primetime Sunday night at close to the season.
You never know.
Now you bring up the fact that people are waiting for Darnold to fail. Darnold came out slinging in this game against the Packers. He was it didn't matter whether it was to Jefferson, to Addison, to Hawkinson. He was humming that thing down the field.
My man was just throwing it and didn't care, man. He had that one throw to Jay Jettis where Jay Jettis caught it one-handed. Tom Brady called it Randy Moss-like, and I was like, good Lord, man. Yeah, it
brought back the vibes to you? Did it bring back the vibes?
All I needed was Darrelle Revis just standing there looking. That's all I needed. But Sam Darnold was just slinging it, and he had time in that pocket. He had a lot of time in that pocket. And as with any quarterback, you give them time in the pocket, they're going to find it. And with the weapons Minnesota has, you can't do that. Can't do it.
And for it to be a thrown on Revis, you may have needed that to bring back the full emotions.
I was like, sometimes we're good. Sometimes we're good.
So now that I've got your emotions on high steam, let's talk about this Tampa game. We thought that there was a chance that there was a chance with the way Caroline had been playing that they could have given you some trouble. But Tampa was focused. Baker came out slinging, and this game was more or less over by halftime. So, how does this game set you up to be confident or nervous going into Week 18? Obviously, pending the Sunday night outcome.
Oh, there's no nerves at all. If they play anything to what they played this week, I'm not worried. We will handle business. We'll handle business, and we just have to hope that the football gods say, all right, give Atlanta a loss, and we go on our way. Or Washington loses 2 games. They lose tonight, which I hope they don't. I'd like the easier path, which is Washington wins tonight.
Yeah.
We handle the Saints and just go on our merry way. But Bucky Irving, and we've talked about him. Bucky Irving.
Shy of 200 yards all purpose.
But I'm telling you, man, we want to adopt Bucky Irving. If at our house, Bucky Irving, if Bucky Irving ever needs somewhere to live, Bucky Irving has a place here in my house. We love Bucky Irving. The kid is incredible, unreal. The way he moves in space, unbelievable. And it's crazy how he's taken the starting, back job from White. White's pretty much more a passing back now, which is great. I think it works for him. But you want to move the chains, you want electric plays, Bucky Irving's the guy.
You have someone that has had many fond memories of James White. You wouldn't necessarily turn down Rachaad White as a passing back exclusive.
So as long as he holds on to the ball and doesn't fumble.
That's true. There's that.
And honestly, let's you got to be Tampa's run game, and that was especially the last 2 years has been their Achilles heel, and now they can run the ball, one of the best run games in the league. And when that's working, Baker's on fire, man. For all those who doubted the man, he had to take his little journey, but he found his way, and unbelievable.
Yeah, from the Browns to these Panthers to the Rams for a short interim. That's very, very much a bipolar night and day equivalent of Baker Mayfield's transition.
He had to grow up. I think he had to grow up. I think he had the talent, and it was one of those things where you win the Heisman, you get all this hype, and I think he got a raw deal in Cleveland a bit. I think Cleveland dumped him too quick, and that whole OBJ fiasco, and unfortunately they took the wrong side, and now they're again in quarterback purgatory. But Baker's now found a home, and the man's putting up numbers like you wouldn't believe. And now it's just if they play the way they played today, the defense is the issue. They're still injured. Jamel Dean hurt his knees. Winfield's been out, so that's the situation. We gotta get healthy on the defensive end. If we can get any kind of consistency in the secondary, Tampa's going to be a hard out in the playoffs.
Yeah, speaking of that secondary, there were a couple plays where Bryce Young got loose. Thielen scored a couple touchdowns. One was an absolute dime of a rainbow. Do you just chalk that up to the fact that Winfield was out of the lineup? Versus a legitimate tip of the cap to the offense being able to take advantage of your defense.
Oh, I'll give Young credit. It was a great throw, but yeah, if Winfield's back there, if the Bucs are healthy in the secondary, I don't know if that happens because the secondary then is totally different. You got a lot of young guys playing in spots they normally don't, but it's next man up. That's how it is. So I'll give Young credit. But no, I think if Winfield's back there, it doesn't happen.
I feel like I should give you the opportunity to sing up Mike Evans in this situation because the man has been much maligned this season as far as injuries and inconsistent play and injuries even when he's been healthy, injuries opposite him where Godwin's not there and he's been double teamed and rookies and he's had nothing on the other side but rookies. So I feel like I should give you the opportunity to sing up Mike Evans real quick before we move on.
Oh, you mean the guy who's 85 yards away from 1,000 yards for like 10, 11 straight seasons, ready to tie 11. Jerry Rice, ready to tie it up. A bona fide, first ballot Hall of Famer for those of you who doubted Mike Evans, then y'all can just go take that walk. The man in the red zone's a beast. Y'all saw it today. All I gotta say is you give the man his credit he deserves. You look at the quarterbacks he played with before Brady. Like, let's be real. Like, it was a hodgepodge of guys. Let's be honest. Mike Glennon, Jameis Winston. Like, let's be real. Yeah, Fitz. Well, I like Fitz. Fitz is interesting. The guy's done it year in and year out. So give the guy his credit, give him his props, and he wants to win. And as long as he's healthy, these young guys around him are getting better, like I said, Tampa's going to be a scary out. Got to get to the playoffs first, but they're going to be a scary out. But
Yeah.
Mike Evans.
Well, let's speak of the team they have to get past on this before they get to be that scary out. These this Washington team taking on Atlanta in prime time as the game currently undergoes. Washington's just found pay dirt. They're doing their business as you need them to do. I mean, one would think that this would kind of quote unquote be the easy way. Washington clinches the playoff berth. They give Atlanta an NFC loss here. Is What do you kind of foresee for this game? Is this going to be non-competitive and over by halftime, or does Atlanta have any kind of semblance to keep stay in this game?
I don't think it's gonna be over at halftime. I'm not gonna sit here and pump the chest and be like, oh yeah, over at halftime, this and that. Penix has a good arm, but he's a rookie and he was running scout team for most of the year. Like he's facing live bullets now, and he's facing Dan Quinn, and Dan Quinn is a great defensive coach. Like remember what Dallas was before he left. Dallas was a really good defensive team.
Yeah.
So he knows what he's doing. It's not like you're facing like just an offensive coordinator guy and that's it, and there's going to be no defense. Like they're looking at him, and how Washington scored was they picked off Michael Penix. Now Michael Penix's timing is going to be off still. He's still figuring things out. So I think he'll make some plays. They got Bijan Robinson. You got to you still have to watch their run game. They're going to be competitive, but I feel Washington wins this game. Now that takes us to next week. So it's simple. Atlanta has to beat Carolina. Carolina played solid, but we took them to the woodshed a little bit. Baker told them how it was. Now, if Carolina plays strong, I'm sorry, I gotta take it. Feel good.
Yeah.
Feel good. Carolina can play. Carolina's legit. I get Dave Canales and such. They're I don't have any ill will to Carolina. They're the only team in the NFC South who I don't hate.
Bucks McGee, I'll give you a pass because it was the Jaguars. I would beat my chest just the same.
And so we got to handle the Saints. Now we know how the Saints are. They're going to be up for this game. There's no doubt about it. Especially after they got taken to the woodshed themselves by the Raiders.
Yeah.
So
talking about teams that play themselves out of the number one pick.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So if all goes as it is and Washington wins tonight, it's simple. We got to handle the Saints. Atlanta's got to play Carolina. So I think Atlanta's, unfortunately, it was a bad time to make the quarterback switch, but Atlanta's done some things this past year where people have scratched their heads and exactly. So we'll see what happens, but I think it'll be a competitive game, but I like Washington. Jaden Daniels he's been incredible all year, and I think it continues.
Yeah, and you would think. I mean, you spoke on Dan Quinn being a veteran coach. I'm sure it's in the back of his mind at some point in his life, in his coaching career, to make good for that Super Bowl. This is a veteran coach that he knows how. He's been in situations, high intensity situations, high pressure situations, to motivate teams for the postseason. So
exactly.
you would think that he would have the ability to juice up Jaden Daniels to play in this kind of moment.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, they win and they're in. Like, it doesn't get any crazier. Right now, you win and you get to go to the dance. In Washington, that franchise has been through a lot, through the Dan Snyder years and everything. This is, they win tonight. At this point, it's truly been a rebirth for this franchise. And they want it. They're home. They're going to do everything they can.
And especially with Philadelphia locking up the division, everything is in Washington's hands in this game tonight. Just win, get in, and then next week you can kind of reset your brain and figure out, okay, who do we want to play?
Yeah, exactly. Once you have that week off of like, okay, we're in now, we're good. Here we go. Now, some teams that doesn't work. Some teams, unfortunately, like to do things the hard way. Clinch the week 18 and then just go right into it. Maybe that's how they're wired better. I don't know. But we'll see what happens. But Washington, they win and they're in. So it's up to them tonight to do what they need to do.
Well, Bucks McGee, I'm glad you get to celebrate a victory Monday. I will not. I will stew myself in absolute anger and hatred for the next couple 48 hours or so. But, sir, enjoy Victory Monday, and hopefully it will be even sweeter following this Sunday nighter. Sir, take us off air with your final thoughts of this Week 17 clearing of the dust.
First, I give my condolences to Nutmeg and the Colts Nation. Never like to see, and I never like to see a family member hurt, especially football season. This is tough. Just our prayers. We're there with you. We support you. Buffalo handled business. Buffalo's the number 2 seed. Buffalo, if they really want to show that they're better than they were last year, now's the time. Philly will just continue rolling, even though they're a dysfunctional mess. But hey, you win, and now they got the Giants next week. Sam Darnold is the man. Give him credit. No pumpkins here. Could be the very best team in the NFC. For those of you who doubted Baker Mayfield, take a seat. Watch greatness, because that's what he's giving you. And Jets fans, enjoy.